and I will just turn off my video at the time of the presentation to ensure better sound. We will talk about system thinking and how it can help us have different discussions and improve decision-making when trying to solve complex issues like the one we are discussing today. We will briefly describe what we found by applying system thinking to the transport sector, which we think, or at least we hope, can be food for thought for the discussion. We are developing at the OECD a toolkit that we call the Wellbeing Lens to facilitate the application of system thinking to complex issues. We will go straight to the results today, but we are happy to tell you more about the tools and the process we are putting together, and of course to collaborate with you moving forward. Let me start with the word system, which is one that we often use. What is a system in the first place? A system is a set of elements organized in a certain way to provide a functionality. So elements organized, connected, structured in a certain way to provide a functionality. A bike is a system. In a bike, the elements are the handlebar, the wheels, the brakes. And these elements are organized in a certain way to provide the functionality of transportation. The same elements on a shelf are not a bike, right? The bike is a simple system, and there are not many ways
Mariana? Mariana? Mariana?
Mariana?
Elements.
Mariana?
We lost you.
Your system is not working.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we lost you when you said if the bike was put in separate parts and shelves, it wouldn't be a system.
Okay, let me start from there. Sorry about that. The same elements in a shelf are not a bike. They need to be organized in a certain way. Now, if you want a better bike, you actually will focus on getting better wheels, better brakes. You will focus really on elements because there are not many ways in which we organize the bike to get a better bike. Now, complex systems like cities or transport are very different to simple systems. In complex systems, the system's functionality, that is its results, emerge from the system structure, from the way the parts or the elements are organized, rather than from the properties of its parts, as was the case for the bike. Complex systems are very different to simple systems, but when it comes to solutions, we often apply the same type of thinking for a simple system that for a complex system. We focus on parts. We tend to change, improve, replace, or add parts or elements. And we lose huge opportunities doing that because the potential for change in complex systems is not in the elements, but in the way these elements are organized. This is one of the key insights from complexity science, and it was what systems thinking allows us to see. If we take the transport system as an example, which is a complex system, in the transport system, the elements are the cars, the bikes, you and me, the signs in the street, everything that is physical. The way these elements are organized or connected or structured are, for example, who is entitled to use which part of the street? What is the space given to cars, to pedestrians, to public transportation, or to alternative modes of transportation? Consider that if in this photo, all of the cars were electric or autonomous, the photo would look very similar. There would not be that much change. Now, how could the street look like if we reallocated space differently? Let me now pass the floor to Aimé, who will tell you more about the application of system thinking to the transport sector, as well as which questions we think this raises for today's discussion. Many thanks for your attention and apologies for the technical issue.
Aimé, are you there?
And do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so thank you, Mariana, very much. So by applying a systemic approach to the transport system, we have found that these systems are organized around the goal of increasing mobility and speed, which is seen as a proxy for improving well-being. The focus on mobility and speed has led to a certain way of organizing urban space and making investment decisions that leads to car dependency, leading to a high mobility, high emissions, but limited accessibility system, which undermines our health, equity, and sustainability goals. We find that there are three key dynamics leading us to car dependency, and these are induced demand, sprawl, and the erosion of alternative modes. Actually, induced demand is in particular the result of a focus on road expansion, an element of the system, combined with a narrow view that puts high stress on automobile congestion and addresses little of the wider health and accessibility limitations. These three dynamics combined lead to a systematic increase in car attractiveness and a reduced attractiveness of alternative modes. Now, getting into the topic of today's discussion, if we are aware of these dynamics, we realize that cities do not look like these by chance. This is actually the result of a system that is poorly designed. In this context, it is not surprising that while technologies advance, we do not really see much change. In car-dependent systems, it is also not surprising if new technologies and business models result in automobile ride-hailing, which solves little. These, rather than triggering a significant increased role for an array of shared services, including bikes and micromobility, as well as mass transit, in order to develop the ecosystems of sustainable services that we need. If innovation and collaboration efforts are embedded in a system that is poorly designed, then the problem is that we are swimming against the current. This is why filling the gaps of mass transit is not enough to get to better systems. Because without solving car dependency, we will still not have the conditions to effectively develop this ecosystem of sustainable services that can be competitive compared to the car. So our key message today is therefore that for creating such ecosystems, our attention should move from partnering to fill gaps in the current system towards partnering to redesign the system, because it is possible, and concretely, how to advance. So firstly, by redefining the goal and shifting our attention from mobility to accessibility, and then shift our attention again from elements towards structure, from finding solutions at the element level toward redesigning the system. We invite you then to reframe your questions and focus on solutions aiming at reorganizing transport systems to shift away from unhealthy transport systems, where most trips are long and need a car. These travel patterns are precisely the result of systems structured around the induced demand, sprawl, and erosion dynamics just mentioned. And even innovative solutions such as apps that facilitate multimodality and integrate payment will not be enough in this system. It is therefore necessary to partner to create systems that allow travel patterns to look more like this. In other words, where there is proximity to places of interest, trips are shorter, and then active modes, micromobility, and public transport together can become not only an option, but the best option. It is in this type of system that the full potential of innovative solutions for better connecting services will be unleashed. There are huge untapped opportunities, and we think that you have a key role to play to unleash them. And so therefore, we want to leave you with some questions. Firstly, we could think how public-private partnerships and innovation be actually a part of projects for streets and city redesign. How could, for instance, introducing new shared services, business models, and technologies accompany the reallocation of road space to make it desirable to the public? And we could even think how this could help us to redesign suburbs. How could these new services be an enabling factor for the reintroduction of local businesses and services, and therefore to restoring the proximity that we have lost in so many places? How could data sharing contribute to changing actually the narrative towards accessibility? Again, our key message is that filling the gap is not enough because the system in which you are innovating is poorly designed. Innovation efforts should focus on redesigning the system so that innovative solutions have the space they deserve, are politically feasible and desirable, and lead to better systems for better lives.